Hello everyone, today we're going to be going over the June 2025 English Language Arts Regents Exam. In this video we're going to be focusing on the multiple choice section, which are 3 reading passages, with each that have short response questions that come after them. In this video we're going to be focusing on passage B, which is the poem, and answering the questions that follow it. So that being said, we're going to start off by reading it. It's titled Naming the Birds, and it says, or it reads that the beach is noiseless, stretching behind my father's house, a mile of stones and driftwood. For those herons, ghost-like, picking their way down the shoreline. For those of you that don't know, a heron is a type of bird. Okay, so he's describing birds that he saw at his father's house, right? All knee and neck, looking for a crab or something that they lost in the surf. And my father points at them and says their names like he is making a wish. Then they are all gone, and it's just me. And the seagulls hover overhead, saying their own names. The sky making those sounds airplanes make when the world has nothing left to say to you. I have no memory of any wish of mine coming true, no knowledge of how a man turns to another man and promises never to leave him. But the other day I named the shadow of a cardinal through a frosty window. For my son described it so he would. I described it for my son is what he's trying to say here, right? So he named the shadow of a cardinal through a frosty window for his son, and described it so he would know it when he sees one for himself. Okay, so again, the way that this passage is set up is that the author or the speaker is remembering an experience with his father on the beach, right? He's remembering the noises and what he saw at the beach with his father, and how his father named a heron. And by naming that heron, he is able to remember it, right? And he's also able to remember his father through the heron. And then he's describing these herons, and then all of a sudden those herons are gone. And so is his father in the context of this passage, right? And at that point, his life kind of becomes dull, and he no longer sees any herons anymore. He no longer sees his father. Instead, he hears and sees only seagulls and airplanes, right? And the world seems so quiet without those birds that he was once appreciating and admiring with his father. So then he comes here and he kind of doesn't understand the purpose of naming or giving promises that you can't fulfill, right? He says, I have no memory of any wish of mine coming true. And this is a callback to when his father was naming a heron, and it sounded like a wish, right? His father pointed at them and said their names like he was making a wish, okay? So now he's remembering his father, and he's remembering his herons after the passage said, he has nothing left to say to you. So now he's remembering back at that moment, and he doesn't remember naming anything or any wish of his coming true, and he has no knowledge of how a man turns to another man and promises never to leave him, because again, his father is no longer there, and those attributes, those memories with his father, he can no longer experience them, right? The herons are gone. So then there's a shift in this passage once more. He says that the other day I named the shadow of a cardinal through a frosty window for my son. So just like his father, he is now naming another bird. And just like his father, him naming that bird is a wish for his son. Okay, so that's essentially the gist of this poem. I think it's a little bit weird and probably a difficult read if you didn't know what a heron was, but let's go ahead and let's look at these questions. So number 11 says the heron searching for something they had lost implies what? Okay, so let's go back to that. Let's go ahead and read that right in line 9. So here's line 9. It says that I'll read before it as well. So for those herons, ghost-like, carefully picking their way down the shoreline, all knees and neck, looking for crabs or something they had lost in the surf. Okay, and my father points at them and says their names like he is making a wish, and then they are all gone, and it's just me. So they're looking for something that they have lost in the surf. Okay, so let's see which answer choice describes what that is. So is it a speaker's admiration of their efforts? No, I don't think it's a speaker's admiration for their efforts, because the heron's searching for something they lost. If you're admiring someone, you'd compliment them, right? You say, wow, they're searching for something they'd lost in a very good way. He never compliments them here, so obviously he's not admiring their efforts. Also, the speaker isn't afraid of their survival, right? Otherwise, he would say that, okay? You have to be literal about what you say here. So he's not worried about their survival because it's a memory, right? He already knows that they didn't survive, that they're not there anymore. But when he's describing them, it's not like, how I wish they would survive, or how dangerous of an environment they were in. No, they're searching for something they lost. That's it. He's describing their behavior, essentially. 3, a competition between the speaker and them. Well, how can the speaker compete with the bird, right? That doesn't really make sense here, because the only interaction that he has with the bird is his observation of them and his memory of them and his father. Okay, so obviously that's not going to be the right answer. And finally, 4, it's a parallel between the speaker and them, right? The speaker has lost something, and now he's trying to search for it. He's trying to search for that memory and that feeling of him and his father being together, or that memory and that feeling of him naming something. And when he's looking back at it and remembering these herons, he's like, yeah, I guess these herons are also looking for something that they had lost. That's interesting how their behavior of constantly searching for something kind of mimics my feelings about always searching for this moment where my father wished for something, or where I felt happy with him, right? So it's going to be a parallel between the speaker and them. And then line number 12 asks us, in the context of the poem as a whole, line 12 signals what? And over here, line 12, we highlighted it actually over here, right? Then they are all gone and it's just me. So let's read before it. It says that they're pretty much, the herons are looking for something they lost in the surf, and my father points at them and says their names like he is making a wish. Then they are all gone and it's just me. And the seagulls hover overhead, saying their own names, the sky making those sounds that airplanes make to you when the world has nothing left to say to you. So up until this point, beforehand, he's remembering an event, and he has pretty fond memories. And then, after this event, he's like, yeah, that's the present, essentially. That's what's happening right now, right? This is what used to be in the past, all these beautiful birds and my father, and now the present doesn't have my father, nor does it have these beautiful birds. Instead, the world has become silent because these birds are now gone, right? So in that case, that's going to support answer choice 2, right? It signals that the speaker is thinking about a past event because they're all gone now, right? If he didn't say that those herons are gone, then you can make the argument that, oh, well, he can always go back to that beach. But then they are all gone and it's just me signals that, well, for him to think about these herons, well, it has to be a past event because he can't just go back to that beach anymore, right? Then it's all gone and it's just me. If you're alone, that means that anything before that is memory. Right? So it should make sense that this is all a memory, and that the shift is him starting to remember back upon that, or calling back upon that memory. All right? This isn't about the birds, right? Because he could always just walk back to the birds. Again, we never describe the father looking at or doing anything other than wishing or giving the herons a name. And it's not talking about the waves on the beach, right? Because we never talked about the waves on the beach. So why would we mention it here? All right. Number 13 says the descriptions of the herons in line 4 and the seagulls in line 13 suggest what? Well, think about it this way, right? The herons are a thing of the past, right? They no longer exist. They only exist in his memory. And the seagulls are the only thing that are left, right? Then they are all gone and it's just me and the seagulls. So the herons have left, but the seagulls remain. So the seagulls are in the present, but the herons are still in the past, right? Because the herons are gone, they're only a memory. But the seagulls are the only thing that are left, which means that that is the present. So by comparing the herons, which are, these elegant creatures that have a connection to his father in the past, to the seagulls, which are kind of, these noisy animals that he doesn't really enjoy, he's making a contrast between what is remembered and what is present. He remembers the herons, but now what exists in place of the herons are the seagulls. And obviously, he doesn't like that fact. But that's pretty much what he means by that, comparing herons are a thing of the past and seagulls are a thing of the present. Okay, he never compares the habitats of the two species, right? They both live on the beach. 3, regard for the presence of such beautiful birds. He never really describes the seagulls as beautiful. Maybe you can say that he describes the herons as beautiful, but certainly not the seagulls. He thinks they're annoying, right? They're noisy. He compares them being at the beach to an airplane passing by, or he thinks that even though they're at the beach, he still feels alone, whereas he didn't feel alone with the herons. Choice 4 says recognition of the significance of the past and its lessons. Well, again, how can that be a recognition of the significance of the past and its lessons when the seagulls are something that's happening in the present? For you to recognize that the past was significant, you need to be thinking about the past. But right now he's thinking about the seagulls, which are in the present, right? So it doesn't make sense for that to be a recognition of the past, because he's describing events that are currently happening to him. Number 14 says the naming of the birds throughout the poem serves to do what? Right? Well, think about it. His father named the birds for him, and then he named the birds for his son. So it's going to be a link between generations, right? And that link is formed through memories and through experience with nature. This guy, or his father, named the herons for him, and when his father left, the name of the heron stuck to his head, right? And he was able to look at the herons. And then, to create that same wish for his own son, He described, or he named the shadow of a cardinal through a window, right? Obviously in a different environment now, but again, he's naming a bird because names are a way to create links between generations because they allow us to create memories, right? And to pinpoint something. Okay? It's not to distinguish the species of the birds, right? Um, you know that a heron looks like a heron, and a seagull looks like a seagull, and a sparrow looks like a sparrow. You don't need to name something to distinguish the species of birds. It's not about the species, it's about the memories and the environments that you remember them in. Okay, it's not to exemplify the importance of words because a name isn't really a word. A name is more than a word. Right, and it's not to really affirm a respect for nature because again, sure, birds are going to be a part of nature, right? But the overarching story here is how we interact with nature to form memories, right? And how those memories link previous generations like your father to, future generations like your children. All right? And that's pretty much all the questions from this section. So if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. Hope you guys learned something. Hope you guys have a good day and good luck on your regions tomorrow.